of East 177th Street to vote. It's been some time since we've presented, at least a good year, since we've been able to provide an update. Lots has happened since then. Next slide. So we obviously do have some slides that you probably have seen before. Background, proposed improvements. We're going to definitely delve into a little more of the challenges and obviously the updated schedule and community outreach. Thank you. Next slide. So again, just a little background on this project. You know, the Bronx River Alliance, it's been a tremendous advocate on the Greenway master plan. And this project obviously is part of that master plan, at least within two segments. Next slide, please. I'm just going to breeze through these because I think you've definitely seen them before. And as you can see from the Greenway plan, there's a green line that's shooting right across from the project limits that you see shaded in gray. That is still there, hasn't changed since the last time we met. And obviously everything that borders into the red lines, as far as these segments are concerned, again, as part of the Greenway plan, are still part of the project scope for the DeVoe 177th Street Capital Project. What has changed, obviously highlighted in yellow, is the Chevron Expressway ramp just past the Starlight Park entrance on the other side. So that's been removed. As you know, there were some conflicts with the Department of Education. There was a yard there. And obviously with some DEC, Department of Environmental Control, wetlands, the wetlands that were there also made it very challenging. In order for the project to move forward, we decided to that it was probably the best move to remove that portion of the project so that we can continue to move forward with this project. So proposed improvements, again, you've seen this before. I think one of the changes that we've highlighted here, obviously, is the enhancements of some beautification of trees, of some greenery in the area on the Tremont DeVoe 177th Street segment, where we've extended the sidewalk. So everything you see in orange is sidewalks and extended curb bump outs on certain intersections, obviously, to improve the safety aspects of the pedestrian and vehicular traffic, the traffic calming installations. These measurements are proven to help with these conflicts. I'm having a little trouble seeing the, okay, and then of course, obviously, I talked about the Bronx River Greenway connection, right? So that's still there, very important, integral part of the project. And then while we're doing all of this DOT safety improvements, sidewalks, curbs, street lighting, new pavement markings, all this traffic channelization, we are obviously going to upgrade the infrastructure in the ground. So we have an opportunity to, of course, address any water main, sewer, issues while we're there. And then I think, and then we talked about the expanded landscaping and new trees. So next slide, please.
Okay, Maria, so I can take it from here, Maria.
Oh, yes. And then so now I'd like to, let Glory be. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Thank you, Thank you, Maria. Hi. Okay. As I said before, my name is Glory B. Taveras. I'm with the DDC Design Unit. So we'll just go over some of the challenges that we've encountered during the project, but most, during design, we've had a lot of challenges, but these are some of the bigger ones that we listed here. So we've had a lot of coordination with New York State DOT. Right now, State DOT is reconstructing portions of the Sheridan Expressway and as part of their Hunts Point project. So we've been just talking to them, coordinating, making sure that, that the work that they're doing doesn't interfere with the work that we're going to be doing under our project. They also have some planned reconstructions of the Cross Bronx Expressway. We're told that they will be starting construction in the summer of 2026. So also, just speaking with them, making sure that we don't have any conflicts with what they're doing, making sure we don't have any conflicts with any of the areas that we'll be using and occupying. We've had a lot of coordination with New York City DEP throughout the project. There have been multiple design changes. Sometimes after we we thought we were finished with design, something changed and we had to go back to the drawing board. So we that's happened a few times, and of course that once that happens, there's always delays. But we are going to be installing major significant water main and sewer upgrades. So that, I think it's worth it. Um, Also, we've coordinated with DEP what we have now called the United Stormwater Rule, the USWR, which is it's triggered design and implementation of post-construction stormwater mitigation practices. Those we call them PSMPs for short, and the development of the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan report, which is the SWPPP. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in some of the future slides. Um, we've also had a ton of coordination with our private utilities. We've coordinated multiple times with Con Edison, ECS, AT&T, we Cablevision as well. And the reason is because they've been impacted every time we redesign something based on the changes that like on the DP scope changes. Uh, they have to look back and see how they're being impacted, and we have to, kind of work that out. So a lot of coordination with the private utilities. Um, with New York City DOT, our design consultant and DDC, we've also had a lot of coordination with many of their units. In specific, the traffic signal unit, they did the traffic study and they looked at the signal timing for some of these intersections in the project limits. So uh, that took a long time to kind of finalize, but it's final. So we're able to move forward now with the traffic signal design. Also, street lighting design took a while. There's a lot of existing low light conditions within our project limits, so we had to go back and take a look at where we had to propose some pedestrian lights and, just more lighting to make it safer at night. We've also started coordination with OCMC, which is the Office of Construction Mitigation and Coordination. And basically that is to address the high volume intersections, with the vehicles and pedestrians, and also during construction, how to handle that. And then one of the delays, which we always mention because it was a huge delay, was of course the COVID-19 design pause during that time. So from of 2020 through July of 2021, we were not able to actually work on this project. And so that caused a lot of delay. And then due to the project being on hold for so long, we also had to go back and review everything. We had to make revisions to designs. We had to look at if there were any updated standards or policies that we had to now apply, which yes, there were. And so doing all that also added to the schedule. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So just to give you a little background on the United Stormwater Rule that I mentioned before. The DP United Stormwater Rule, USWR, we began implementing that in our projects back in February of 2022. And for this project, DeVoe Avenue, East 177th, it triggers the USWR because we are disturbing more than 1 acre of soil during construction. And so for this project, we're going to require, the USWR will require that we install the post-construction storm water mitigation practices. We PCSMPs is what we call them, and we have to install those within our project limits. And the purpose of the PCSMPs is to capture stormwater runoff, and then that by capturing the stormwater runoff, it reduces the amount of water that enters into our combined sewer system, and therefore it decreases the amount of water of polluted stormwater runoff that goes into our water bodies. So that's very important. Like I said, that's being now looked at throughout the city on all our projects. The USWR also requires that we prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, so the SWIP, and an erosion and sediment control plan. And so the erosion sediment control plan is what we basically have to put in place during construction to keep debris and pollutants from going into our water systems. Okay, so once we had determined that we needed to do all of that and we had to, install the PCSMPs and do the SWIP and erosion sediment control plan, we had to go back and get additional funds for our design services. So that process took a little bit of time. So from March 2022 through January 2023 until we got a new task order contract for design services to be registered, and then we were able to resume design on this project. So since then, since January 2023, so just early this year, we've distributed Mass Mailing 1, which is basically around 40% of design. And then we distributed that to city agencies and private utilities for their review and commenting. That was done in April of 2023. Right after that, we had an alignment meeting. That also was with our city agencies, city DOT, DEP, um, I believe maybe FDNY, and all the private utilities. We had this meeting. We went over all any conflicts, anything that needed to be changed, um, and that was back in May of 2023. So the PCSMP design, erosion sediment control, and the SWIP report, that was submitted to DEP for their review. That's something that has to be submitted to them, reviewed, and approved in order to get a permit to move forward with construction. So that was the first submission was in August of 2023. We did receive some comments pretty quickly, actually, in September of 2023, and so we're working through that right now. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a few types of PCSMPs, but because this project is within it's zoned as a manufacturing district, the PCSMPs that are approved and being proposed for this project are concrete top and grass top infiltration basins. And so you can see the pictures on the right side. So the grass top on the top and the concrete top at the bottom. And so, in order to find the most suitable locations of where we're going to propose these infiltration basins, we did some geotechnical testing in October of 2022. We got some results from that. And we're also actually right now conducting additional geotechnical testing. So you might see people out in the area doing these tests this week. I believe they started on Monday of this week. So they should be done soon, and they will prepare a report, give us the information that they collected. And based on those findings, we can determine if all the locations that we originally selected for these infiltration bases within the project limits, if they're still suitable, if they're feasible. And then once that's done, we will resubmit to DEP hopefully the final submission, and they will review and approve, and then we're ready to go when it comes to the SWIP. Next slide, please. All right, and this is just an overall view of our schedule. So we are now, so October 2023, so basically, what, 2 days ago, we're at 75% design plans. So we're putting the design plans together and distributing again to the private utilities and our city agencies to look at one last time. And then we plan to get all the comments in and revise all the plans and get the plans finalized by the end of December. Um, and then once that happens, we can advertise the project for bidding, and the bidding should take place sometime in February. And then they would have to award the contract to the lowest bidder, and we would be able to start construction in fall of 2024. And we have, I believe, 3 years of construction planned for this project. And okay, thank you. And next slide for Maria.
Yes, hello. So obviously, this has been a very complicated project to design, and it will be a very complicated project to construct once we're out in the street. Um, and as you know, we're going to disrupt the life cycle of the community. We're going to probably at some point shut down water. We're going to have parking restrictions, possibly routing buses or bus stops will be discontinued or moved along the project site. So there's a lot of, we may be adding to some of the traffic congestion during the course of the project in order to perform the work. So there's going to be a lot of different impacts. Obviously, we do these projects all over the city. And so obviously, we've always found that the component for outreach, although my office has always been in constant communication with the community board and the bids and all different types of stakeholders, once we get into construction, the community construction liaison is a really important aspect of how we conduct outreach during the project. So we will definitely have a designated CCL for this project. They usually come on board during the construction phase or pre-construction phase rather. And we will come back to you at that time with another presentation to talk more about those construction impacts, what our mitigation plan would be, and things of that nature. I'm just going to touch on a couple of things now. Next slide. So the CCL, obviously their role is to be the first point of contact to the community. So any issues, complaints, inquiries, problems that may need to be resolved, the liaison is very much that point person to the community. They're the bridge between the project and the stakeholders, people who live here, who have to go to school and to work. They, also are proactively doing outreach and communicating the project to stakeholders. So they go door to door, we do surveys. We try to find out as much as possible as far as any community events, things of that nature. We bring about a lot of that info, people with special needs. We bring a lot of that information back to the construction team, and we try to coordinate, when possible. And in addition to our proactive outreach, obviously we have our templates, we 72-hour, 24-hour advisories. So we really try to constantly provide project information throughout the course of the project. And the liaisons are, again, also available to not only update the community board at the district service cabinet meetings, but also if there's a civic association or any other interest, they make themselves available and accessible to the community. Next slide. So I talked about the 72 and the 24-hour advisory. And again, they're very specific to what the impact would be, what work operation is taking place. We give you a duration, a beginning and an end. And you'll see a lot of those more than anything else on the project. You'll also have a project information card, and everything that we issue will have the liaison's contact information. We also even do what's called a weekly bulletin. It's a look ahead, letting you know what work is taking place the coming week. And then we also have a newsletter, which is our quarterly newsletter, and we also give you kind of a quick overview of not only the work that's been performed, maybe some progress photos, but what work is expected for the next quarter. And so again, just to touch on, some of our aspects of our community outreach, program with regards to construction and how we communicate DDC projects to the community. Thank you. So if you have any questions, this would be a good time to ask. Thank you. Thank you for having us
Thank
tonight.
you. But before anyone jumps on, thank you, Maria, Glory B, and everyone else from the DDC team, who's been a part of this. I do want to give you a personal thank you, Maria. And when we saw each other for that Starlight opening and we had that conversation, you was like, I will have something for you this fall, and you have something for us this fall. So I want to thank you for keeping your word. I know this has been a big deal for everyone on all sides, and it's something that is desperately needed. So thank you, seriously. Um, Kidding aside. So yeah, again, folks, we will be at taking questions. We ask that you be respectful of your questions and be mindful to keep the questions project scope oriented. Any statements or comments that you have, we ask that you put them in the chat so that we can then just address those at a later time. We'll forward that information over to the DDC and the parties involved. So if you do have a question, I'm gonna ask you to do one of two things. You could raise your hand. That'll put them up in the order that they go up. Or you can also write stack in the chat if you don't have the raise hand function, and we'll get to you in the order of your stack comment question in the chat. Before I do that, I do want to give a little space to Sid. If you have anything you want to add before making our way to the questions or anything you want to share.
Yeah, just echoing thank you, Maria, thank you, Glory be, and thank you, DOT team, who's all here and presenting to us when you said you would. So that's great. Thank you.
I have some questions, but I want to give some space to those of you who may have them. And who knows, I might ask similar questions. So I am not seeing any hands up. Oh, wait, here we go. We got Roy. Feel free to unmute and ask your questions. Please keep it short and project focused.
Yeah. So in the map that you showed, that might have been like the first or second slide, I was just having trouble getting oriented. And I was wondering if you could go back to that and point out where the driveway entrance is to the bus terminal, just so I can sort of get my head better oriented.
So the entrance to Starlight Park, if you look at the very bottom part of the graphic, where someone just put a red line there on the very bottom.
Okay, so to get out of Starlight Park and to get into this new thing that you're building, you do not have to cross the bus terminal entrance. That's great. Thank you.
Tom?
So I've done some petitioning around this intersection. I guess specifically at the intersection of Tremont and Boston Road in the upper left of the map here. There's a ton of pedestrian traffic. People really don't like it. And I guess first, like, this design does a lot to improve how you navigate that intersection as a pedestrian. And I think you've done largely a great job. The thing I want to flag, though, is this slip lane for cars that are turning from westbound Tremont
Right there.
onto northbound Boston Road. So that slip lane, at least to me, looks like it's going to increase crossing times for pedestrians. It increases danger and complexity of the intersection, and I guess it's against DOT guidelines on simplifying complex intersections. So I was wondering if you've looked into maybe eliminating that slip lane and joining that island with the mainland there, which I think would probably mean you'd have to put in a turn restriction. And if you haven't looked into it, is that something that would fit in the project schedule as it's laid out?
So I'll start with the last question. So now any changes right now to what we're presenting, especially something as big as that, because that would require kind of going back to the signal timing and the geometry. That would definitely add a lot of time to our schedule. We would not be able to put the project out to bid and for construction. I can't really speak to if what you are proposing was looked at.
It was.
But I think that the purpose of I know it's a long crossing, but the purpose of that traffic island, that refuge island there is to allow people to be able to cross it basically in two steps, if they can't get across during one red light change. And so that definitely was looked at, that the signal timing was designed to make sure that pedestrians are able to get across
And
safely.
Excuse me, Glory,
Glory-
can I help with this question here? I'm
Oh,
sorry,
sure, of course, thank
I've been
you.
trying to find where to raise the hand and I can't find it. I'm a customer team, so I apologize. I apologize. That closing that slip lane was considered during the earlier phases of this project. Redesigning this this intersection of West Farms did cause significant delay, and that was one of the reasons we were trying to figure out how best to keep with that. Because our drivers said eliminate slip lanes as much as possible. The problem there, I think, if I remember correctly, because of the size of some of the vehicles turning, getting the turning movement was difficult and impossible to make work. So that's why we end up having to keep that slip lane. But that was considered.
So I have a clarifying question. Is that particular area with the red line on it, is that signal controlled?
That I don't remember. Glory, do you remember? I believe this entire intersection is signal controlled. We have to check.
I don't know if that little, let me see.
Yeah.
I thought in a
We'll have to
previous
confirm.
presentation that you said it was not a slip lane, it was signal controlled.
Well, while they're
Now-
looking at that,
Yeah.
whether or not that was the case or not, another thing I'd like to point out as far as addressing pedestrian safety at that slip lane that is new, that hasn't existed in the past, is obviously the extension of the curb out. So if you can see, it does force cars to have to kind of go slowly and turn slower into the slip lane, where before, obviously, they would do it a lot quicker because, they didn't have that. Basically, it was a physical obstacle bringing the sidewalk out further. So there is that added, traffic calming measurement with the bump out just before the slip lane at that turning point there. So again, just wanted to also point that out as another additional measurement for pedestrian safety. Any answers on that, or is that something maybe we need to get back to and follow up with if we don't have the answer tonight? Whether it's controlled or not?
Yeah, I'll if I have the answer before we all go home, I'll let you know, but I'm looking through it right now.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank
Let me try to do a quick gallery view, see if any other hands are up. Reese.
Hello, thank you, Mundo. I am very excited about this project, and particularly how the Greenway extension will make the pathway at Bronx Street much more obvious. I've done the Greenway North, and oftentimes we'll just take DeVoe because of how weird it is coming out of the Greenway in this intersection. I am curious, and I did see an early a version of this presentation that was given at Community Board 6, but I'm curious if you could share a little bit about the on-street bike improvements, bike lanes, and that sort of thing that I don't think are represented on this image.
Okay. So as part of this project, within the project's limits, we are proposing East Tremont, a shared bike lane going eastbound. So basically tying into what's on East Tremont near West Farms Road, I believe. and moving east. And then that shared bike lane then picks up at the Greenway. So that mid block, you see that mid block crossing of the Greenway? So it connects to that. And then going westbound, we have a bike lane going from starting at DeVoe and heading westbound and connecting to the existing bike lane on East Tremont and West Farm Road. What's that? Boston Road. So that's, yeah, so that, and then of course the Greenway. And so that's what we're proposing as part of this project.
Thank you, Glory B. Let me just check the space in here. I see your hand, Daniel. Just give me 1 second. Let me see if we got anyone in the chat so I can give some shared love to the chat and the hands as well. Okay, not seeing anything in the chat. So go for it, Daniel.
Thanks. Yeah, Daniel Pascal with the East Coast Greenway Alliance. Usually it's my colleague Bruce who's covering this, but he had a conflict tonight. So excuse me, I'm a little new to the project. I mean, I've seen it years past, but it's exciting to see the connectivity, and I appreciate you all presenting and the work that's been done. I was curious about the crossing, the mid-block crossing itself, and I see, crosswalk stripes and there's a bikeway delineated. Is there anything else, like a rapid flashing beacon, signage, elevated? Is that a raised crossing? Anything else that is not like completely evident on this view? And sorry if you mentioned this earlier and I missed it.
Hi. Okay, sorry. You're talking about the mid-block crossing of
Yep.
the Greenway. Okay. So that is it is a raised median, I believe, but I think the crossing itself is a cut through. I'm trying to find the drawing. And it is signalized.
Okay.
Yes, and yes, we have pedestrian signals and it is signalized.
Okay, so then you'd
Yeah.
press a button, I take it, and
Correct. And yeah, at any of the signal, any of the traffic, the intersections that have traffic signals, we will install the pedestrian signals.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Now I have a few for you. I'll do them one by one and keep them really short. I know y'all stated that there's some planned construction in 2026. Is that like the bridges from the Bronx River Parkway? And is there any expectations that would interrupt this construction or plan process?
The 2026 one is I believe the Cross Bronx.
Okay. I know the
Okay.
Bronx River Parkway is also getting some work done on their bridges nearby.
Yeah, so it was the reconstruction of the Cross Bronx Expressway. So that's the one that we're told by State DOT was expected to begin in October. I mean, in the summer of 2026. So as far as we understand with our conversations with State DOT, we are not going to be overlapping in terms of the actual work. So I don't see how it would affect us.
Awesome. Great.
To clarify, Mundo, just that project is Cross Bronx from I believe it's Boston Road to Rosedale Avenue, some bridges being replaced, some multimodal infrastructure being installed. It's actually pretty interesting. And maybe we can go over it at a future Greenway team meeting.
Yeah, we had a presentation a while back. We should probably have a refresher. The locations of the basins, I'm sorry, if they are not suitable, what does that mean for the timeline in the project?
Oh, the infiltration basins? So basically, when we did our analysis for the infiltration basins, we took a look at every single area where we could propose one. before we even did the geotechnical testing, just in terms of, is there anything underground that, that we can't put it here? And then based on that, we went and we're doing the geotechnical testing, and then we'll eliminate the ones that, because the soil is not suitable for the type of infiltration basin we're proposing, we'll eliminate the ones that wouldn't work. And then we will present that again to DP has already looked at our initial submission, so we'll present it again to DP with these are the final geotechnical results we have. These are the final locations we can propose, and we've basically maximized what we could do in this area. And so at that point, we kind of asked them to I forgot what it's called. It's like an infeasibility memo, something like that, where it's like we can't do more than that. That's it. We've done our best, and they have to review, make sure that we actually did all of the analysis that needed to be done to determine that. And if we can prove that without any problem, they would approve it, because there's really not much you can do if if the soil's not cooperating.
Understood. So basically, that's kind of built into the timeline that's already presented. So
Yes.
we shouldn't be like, hey, in the first quarter of 2024, infiltration basins aren't really what they are to be. We're going to talk to you much later. So
No.
not
So
expected. Okay.
no, and that's and it's possible. It's possible that we can't get them all installed. At least not the original ones we proposed, but we did try to cite them wherever we could.
Okay. Sid, is that question regarding this or something separate?
Similar, not exactly this.
Okay. I got two short ones and we'll go to you.
Mhm.
Any barriers on the sidewalks by these areas that are getting bumped out? I'm thinking specifically by the slip lane. I know there's areas like I've seen in East Tremont where there's like islands or things are placed and there's like these small little blocks so that cars, if they are coming at a high
Oh,
rate of
like
speed,
bollard, like
yeah,
bollard.
whether they're bollards or like the small little blocks,
Like,
cement, like little barriers that basically prevent cars from running people over on the sidewalk if they don't slow down and adhere to the curb being bumped out.
I guess he's talking about yeah, either bollards or planters or something like that.
or the metal bells, yeah, the little, when we have the little
Yeah.
Liberty bells.
So I believe I believe at some of the larger ramps where we have like where the Greenway is, where we have both bicyclists and pedestrians kind of next to each other, at the curb line we do have a pedestrian bollard, so like in the entrance to the Starlight Park, that would have a bollard, so that would prevent a vehicle from going in there. um I don't know if we have them on every single ramp,
So,
but I think
let
I
me help out with
sure.
this one if I can. So the refuge islands would have bollards with Disney crash rated and the metal bollards. Um, the greenway, the separation between pedestrian and cyclist at the just at the entrance at either side of the boulevard, those should have pipe bollards, which is just a vertical so for people to know that it can enter the vehicle and also separate the pedestrian and so on. The way you ask me about the sidewalk, what's what we did the sidewalk widening, the bump outs, those are you only do those in parking lanes, not travel lanes. Usually 2 foot shorter than the width of the travel lanes, so you don't expect there to be two traffic running through there. I mean, I know there's a New York things can happen, but
Understood. Thank you. And then the last one that I will share for tonight before I pass it off to Sid, I promise, is will there be any temporary signage or changes in these intersections until the project starts, which is clearly about a year away if everything goes well? Are there like any kind of temporary measures that are going to be put in place? And if not, how come? And I mean like safety measures, obviously, because it's obvious that this intersection needs some attention. That's what I mean specifically, not like safety measures for pedestrians.
I don't know if Holly's aware of anything. I am not aware of us planning anything other than I know they were looking at doing a crosswalk somewhere by the bus, by the entrance of the gateway for the bus,
By the MTA
Unless-
depot, yeah.
by the MTA depot. But other than that, I'm not aware of anything. Holly?
No, so yeah, the crosswalk was approved, for the MTAs to cross people at a Starlight Park across. And the only signs that we did is, when Dan and I did a ride, we just did like, and you actually, Ed, the medallions. But if there's anything specific in the meantime, again, please send me an email. We can do another walkthrough. We can have our borough engineers take a look at it. Because yes, this project's going to take at least a year before it starts, and then, a while before it's completed. But in the meantime, we want to have people bike and cross safely. I agree with you. So yeah. And I don't mind coming back out into the fields with you guys again.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for that. Sid?
Okay.
Yes, Holly, I believe we confirmed that we will be meeting.
Yes, with
later
the
this
commissioner,
month.
with our new borough commissioner. By the way, and I don't want to take away, Sid, are you running on Sunday?
No, I'm not. I just
Oh.
modeled. No, I'm gonna ride the bike I'm gonna do that quick morning one on the Greenway, on the marathon route. But yes, we have a walkthrough coming up. We're gonna meet the new Bronx Borough DOT commissioner. So there is a new Bronx Borough DOT commissioner. So if anybody wants to propose or have us look at potential temporary safety improvements, you can email me directly at greenway@bronxriver.org, and we can add it to our list of things to look at through our walkthrough. So I'm gonna put this in the follow-up notes to everybody who is on this call. I'm gonna ask for those by the end of the
But
week.
please, I mean, I'm sorry, like, don't wait for the walkthrough to send that to us.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
send it to us, and I mean, it could be discussed, of course, when you get at the walkthrough. Wow, but like, I don't want, there doesn't need to have a big meeting for you guys to
Yeah.
send us requests.
Best thing to do is come to the Slow Roll, the community banquet this weekend, and share your concerns and thoughts. How about that, right?
And an easy way, if you don't make it to that, is email greenway@bronxriver.org, and we'll forward it or include. I don't know if Holly, you were saying that there's some more specific on your side, folks should be contacting.
Yeah, I left my email address in the
there you go.
thing, please. Yeah, like, if there's a request, send it, we'll log it. I'm good at being an ag with my coworkers and the other units. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, please send us your requests.
So Holly put their email address in the chat, and so please send an email. If you're open, definitely send it to Holly, and CC us if you're up for that.
Sid, you had a question, and I want to kind of get back to
Yes.
the timeline for the agenda. We got like 2 minutes left.
Yes, and Roy had a question also in the chat, which I'm going to go to after this. But my question was there any, regarding stormwater, was there any consideration for pervious pavement, porous pavement? And if not, is that being piloted anywhere in the city, out of curiosity?
So the thing with the PCSMPs is that there are certain siting criteria that we have to follow. And like I stated, this area is a manufacturing and I believe also commercial district. And for those types of districts, we do not propose the porous pavement panels. But we are proposing it for there are other projects within the city that we are installing those or proposing those. So you will see them in other parts of the city. Unfortunately, not in this area, just because of I believe it's also if there's a bus route, if there's a manufacturing district where I guess some pollutants can get into the porous pavement panels. I think that those are the reasons why they cannot be cited in this area. They could be broken, like if heavy traffic, heavy trucks or buses could break them easier.
Got it. Thank you. And then I think
Sid,
we have to
real quick before we get, we
Oh,
got.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Yeah, I
sorry,
just wanted
Sid,
to let I wanted to let you know that the slip lane, it is signalized. There are pedestrian signals there. It will be signalized.
Good.
Awesome. Awesome. Sid, you had something real quick?
I'm passing it. I'm just going to read Roy's question from the chat, and I think we're going to have to move on after that.
Yeah.
So Roy's question is, what will be done with the area between the pathway and the river in that what is currently the New York State DOT staging area? So where that green arrow is kind of between the river and the Greenway path.
Okay, so
So what?
oh, go ahead, Hayden.
So there's that area that's shaded red right now. That's going to remain state property. I do not know what state is going to do with that. Everything on the other side of the fence, which means from where our new greenway is, all the way to the edge of the curb, we state DOT and city DOT are working to have state transfer that property to the city. So that will remain for public use. Green space for public use. But anything within that red area there on the other side of the fence towards the river, that will remain state property. And I have no idea what state is going to do with that.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Got it. Thank you. Every time you say state property, I think of the hip hop group from Philly. Great group.
And just to let you know, I know DP's not here tonight, but to answer your question about the porous pavement panels, so far in the Bronx, there's about 1 mile of that in the Bronx, and there's intention to create about another 9 miles worth of that material throughout the Bronx.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I was going to say, Sid, earlier, I think something to take away from tonight's meeting, besides all this great information, is that that neighborhood is still deemed a manufacturing district. And just something to note for how much manufacturing is done there and what does that designation do to the community members who obviously live there and are not manufacturing, stuff that is probably what that district was deemed for many, many years ago. This has nothing against you, DDC. So again, thank you, DDC, Maria, Glory B, Hayden, and everyone else from all the respective teams and agencies. I'll open the floor real quick. You want to say goodbye, good night, or whatever, y'all feel free to stick around. And I don't want to extend your day, but y'all more than welcome to stay if y'all want to see what we're talking about here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening and
Awesome.
enjoy the rest of your
Bye.
meeting. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Good night, guys.
Right.
Take care, Holly. Good seeing
Thank
you.
you. Good evening.
Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.